Halle Bailey opens up about the Little Mermaid racist backlash. She says, quote, as a black person, you just expect it. As a white person, I expect this exact type of marketing to be done because that's exactly what they do every time something like this happens. They don't have anything to market this movie on because it looks like crap. And I legitimately believe that. Like the underwater scenes are drab and boring looking and they shouldn't be for a Disney movie. It shouldn't be realistic.
Well, people are already talking about how the color grading and lighting looks nothing like the animated version. And like the reason why it was animated in the first place is because it's more fun to look at. I don't know why every animated picture needs to be made into live action anyway. But if it's a vector for race hustling, then they'll take the opportunity.
It's the only way to market this movie.
The sad thing here is that Halle Bailey seems to be a genuinely charismatic and nice and hardworking.
She's a beautiful woman.
Girl, and she's talented, but they're kind of baiting her into saying these things.
I mean, she's being baited.
Really bad.
She's being baited just by casting this way. Like you're thrust into this, and it's actually a disservice to her to say like, look, we're going to cast you in this role. Isn't that great? And then they say, don't read the comment. Like Beyonce says, don't read the comments. She said that to her early on in her career.
Her new mentor.
Like, imagine like they say that to you about. The coven. They tell you to. Yeah, I know, right?
That's quite the mentor to have in woke world.
They tell you to not read the comments, even just as a star, let alone a star who's taken on a role that's extremely controversial. So this is her quote. She says, as a black person, you just expect it, and it's not really a shock anymore, Bailey says in a new cover story for The Face. I know people are like, it's not about race, but now that I'm her, people don't understand that when you're black, there's this whole community. It's so important for us to see ourselves. It's like reading out of the same exact race hustling playbook every single time. Why can't I know this is going to be like, look, I'm going to repeat the same questions we always ask here. Why can't they create new characters for people to see themselves with? It's not like people get upset when they just make movies with people with other races. That's not a real thing.
I mean,
they're lying.
I don't even enjoy asking this question anymore because we already know the answer, and it's that they hate white people. Like, that's it. You can only feel aggrandized by feeling like you're taking something away from white people, right?
Yep.
Like, that's it. If it were about
conquering culture, little by
the
little.
Next generation of empowered young black women, letting them feel represented on screen, then you would make a new character, obviously, but it's done out of a hatred in their hearts.
Maybe not even by Halle Bailey, but by the people that chose to cast this way.
I mean, but dunking on white people is on, I feel like, the same tier of saying drumpf and also like making fun of Christians.
It's been a while since I heard that.
I think that's like the lowest tier of having a bold opinion.
And I don't even think Halle Bailey is hateful because this cover story is so heavily editorialized to seem racially transgressive, and her comments are, yes, I disagree with them, but they're mostly tepid, and she's just saying like things that she thinks are like positive and uplifting, and she's ignorant. Like she said, people flooded her phone with all of these TikTok videos of these parents recording their children reacting to the teaser trailer for the movie. And they're like goading their children into reacting a certain way and saying like, oh, she's black like me, she looks like me, and like crying and having these overstated emotional reactions.
As if kids that age actually understand the gravity of a character with that much lineage in history.
Well, nor does she. I mean, these kids in these videos don't even have a first impression of Ariel, the character, from 1989.
You made me to come to what I think is an 100% accurate realization. The target demographic for this movie is people who send fake tweets of what their kids said on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like, that's the actual demographic.
And then everybody stood up and clapped.
It's like, my child, Olivia, who is 2.5 months old, said,
if I could be a mermaid.
Papa, I'm happy that racial disparities on media are being rectified. I say, yay, verily. It's like, okay, well, it's oddly eloquent child.
And then there's this creepy director, Rob Marshall, who reportedly from the very beginning of her casting decision has been really suspiciously keen on incorporating her race, her identity into the movie. So they started out all of her work on the film getting her in a water tank to test out how her dreadlocks move in water.
Yeah.
Because from day one, they called it a no-brainer that her dreadlocks would be included in her character. They said no wonky wigs, just natural black hair. Rob Marshall wanted to incorporate parts of Halle's identity into the reimagined Ariel through the entire production process. She said, as a black woman, hair is spiritual, especially locks. It was really cool for them to make Ariel a version of me with my locks. And I feel that's what my mermaid hair would be anyway.
I wonder how she actually got.
It just seems like a black woman being fetishized for her hairstyle by an elderly, creepy white Hollywood director.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Like, if anyone sees something in this that's not sinister, let me know. But that's what it looks like. It looks like she's being taken advantage of and tokenized, and she doesn't even know it.
Yep.
Or maybe she knows it, and because it's such an advantageous career move, she isn't going to say anything.
Yeah,
she's going to encourage it.
Yeah.
When the Hollywood Reporter caught up with Bailey last year at the D23 event, she relayed that the most magical part of the experience was her knowing that somebody like me got the opportunity to play such an iconic part. The fact that I get to represent all of these little young black and brown boys and girls who are to come in really special to me, because I know that if I had that when I was younger, it would have changed my whole perspective on life. You literally became a celebrity as a teenager. How would it have changed your perspective on life? You proved to yourself as a child that you didn't need someone who looked like you on screen, because you became the person that somebody, like, wouldn't it be better if she said this about her own roles? Like, about, like, I became a singer so that black and like young black and brown children could realize that they could do it even though because they look like me. Does that make sense? Like, it makes more sense to brag about it because you succeeded about it, not because you played a character that didn't traditionally look like that.
Halle Bailey would say that Beyonce was her representation.
Yeah.
Who's now her mentor, which is scary.
Yep.
But that she needs to do, like, the work of representation for, like, Gen Alpha, who I don't know if they're even paying attention to the screen for long enough to even know that they're being represented. But this is something that she has clearly been indoctrinated in for a long time. And another thing she mentioned about this movie is that they're basically making The Little Mermaid into a feminist empowerment story.
Wow.
She said,
that will be the more annoying part,
what's beautiful about this version of The Little Mermaid is that it's a lot more modern. When we saw it when we were younger, she gave up everything for the guy, but I don't think that reflects modern women today. So now it's more about Ariel finding freedom for herself. Prince Eric is a cherry on top, but it's not all about him.
You know what's funny?
To imply that the first Little Mermaid movie was all about Prince Eric just shows that you weren't even a fan of it in the first place. And, like, I wasn't allowed to watch this movie, and I watched it later on in life, and that is the opposite of the impression I got from it. And in 1989, we were well into, like, the girl power era.
Can I say, so
less so
when I was in high school, a lot of female friends of mine particularly vibed with this Disney movie more than any other one, and it was always because that what Ariel wanted was freedom more than anything. Like
she's obsessed with the outside world.
Yeah. She just wanted to go explore and have fun and do whatever. And that is the thing that vibes with the character the most. And never in my mind, because of how they frame it for me, did I think of her as this, like, love crazed. Right.
And now all of these, like, Disney adult millennial women are identifying with a character like this on, you know, their escapades, traveling around the world, hooking up with men. everywhere they go,
Right.
and calling it, you know, their search for
Finding
true
yourself.
love. Right?
No, it's finding
I'm
yourself.
Yes, finding yourself.
I'm
Finding
saying that
yourself.
because it's pointing out a pitfall in the messaging of the original movie too. To seek only, you know, your self-actualization or romantic love solely is a misguided endeavor, and Disney has sanitized this folktale beyond a point of recognition. Sure, and you can say that's a bad thing, but we're still like we're taking it even further this time, where like romance is just a footnote in this story.
It's
like
it's not even that. Is that every character is the same character now. Like it used to be you had multiple movies and they all had a character of a certain archetype that would navigate this situation. And it's now media with every movie. It's like, how would a feminist, Yas Queen, girl boss take on this specific set of tasks and
in a very formulated
more or
way.
less achieve the same results that its predecessors had? Everything is through the perspective is like, how can a black girl boss interpret this situation and reach the same results despite the fact that it's different people and it's like a different situation?
I mean, that's even what all of Chloe and Halle's music is about. It's
Yeah.
about like being a strong, independent black woman who don't need no man.
Music got ruined when we stopped
And
making love songs.
Get your bag, girl. Forget about him. Move on to the next. You know, like
Notice how
that's
these
literally
women-
what R&B has turned into, and now it's what is spreading further.
Bring back boys to men. Bring think about Moesha did Cinderella. Also, to me, the concept of representation, that you get to be some type of arbitrary representative of an entire group of people, is the height of American narcissism in current year. To believe that like you've been selected and anointed to prove to little kids who are less fortunate than you that they too can overcome the odds and be seen on screen is just disgusting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jesus.
Well, they've already spent all of the good faith
God.
with the audience. This is the first time you're hearing it.
Well,
I
I'm gonna need a
forgot.
minute. Wow.
They've spent all of the good faith they had with the audience already, because they labeled all of the backlash against this version of the film racist.
But-
they've already labeled all of it anti-black hatred. This journalist suggested that the racist backlash began when the first teaser came out, and the hashtag Not My Ariel started spreading in response to the announcement that she was cast. And then a new wave of vitriol comes with every new like image or teaser trailer. But like the vitriol is coming from a place of like genuine like loss. Like people feeling like they have lost something from their childhood, and it's being twisted and bastardized.
This was the other idea I had. You know what would be a good way to get people back on board? And this will never, ever happen.
Okay.
If one of these media outlets did something where they did an interview with her, but then they also did an interview, and this would have to be done in good faith, with a group of people who have complaints about this movie, and actually allow people to give a nuanced explanation as to why they have a problem with this type of casting, and then actually print it in a way that doesn't make them out to be scumbags. And print and show that when you get pushback like this, it isn't just because a bunch of people in middle America are looking at their screen and shaking their heads because they're seeing people that look different than them, but maybe they have attachment to this material. And then you could talk to Halle Bailey and say, look, if they were to go back to your early work and race swap your character, what do you think that the young black girls who have come to identify with that character would have a problem with it?
Yeah,
I think they would.
Can we have the Proud family with just Asian Americans?
That's the Proud Boys family. That's a totally different...
With Asian Americans?
Oh, not Asian Americans.
There's the implication that Ariel was a popular character because she was white. Like, that white girls liked Ariel because she was white. And that assumption just
Disgusting.
comes from somebody who is such an ethno-narcissist that they can't relate to someone who's not.
Yep.
Someone who can see like universally appealing traits in a story.
And most people can.
A folk tale. It's a freaking mermaid, first of all. Like, it's not even a human being. But this article starts out saying, the original Ariel had the voice of an angel, disproportionately big blue eyes, and straight red hair. Not to mention, leading lady of the era, white skin. Halle ticked on one of those 4 boxes. I'm like, why would they ask me? She says incredulously. This is just implying that white people, or like anyone who liked the 1989 version, liked it simply because she was white.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And it's like, do you even like have the ability to empathize if you can't relate to a character that doesn't look like you?
my perspective is that
she has gills.
what people really, really hate about it is the getting beaten over the head with it. Because as we talked about on other episodes, I think like Brandy was Cinderella
Yep, she
or
was
something.
a long time ago.
No one cared.
Nope,
There was not a single like, oh well.
The number one argument for that, though, is that Brandy was a big star at the time. And people,
So it makes sense, is what
People
I'm saying.
put up with race swaps a lot more if you cast somebody with a strong pedigree, because they're like, it makes sense. Obviously, we know this not to be true with Disney anymore.
This article claims that Morgan Freeman in Shawshank Redemption was the first actual example of colorblind casting. Like casting someone who isn't
He's just that
the
good.
race of the original
He's just that good.
character because of
Yeah.
their merits, not because you're
Yeah.
pushing an agenda.
And I'm sure the marketing for that movie wasn't like, now
No.
Cinderella is a girlfriend. Like it was, it wasn't like condescending white women trying to understand and experience like the black American experience.
Even when they made that horrible Hercules movie with Jamie Foxx, was it Hercules? No, I know it wasn't Hercules. It was Robin Hood, I think. They made like a Robin Hood movie that had Jamie Foxx in it, and it was like, No, he didn't play Robin Hood. I don't remember the character he played, but it's like nobody really cared because it was 2017, and Jamie Foxx is a big star, and the movie sucked anyway. So that's nothing. Nobody liked
Even
the movie.
2017, that was already after things kicked off.
But Jamie Foxx is Jamie Foxx, so you understand why they go with him, because you can make the argument, even knowing none of the details, like, look, maybe they didn't want to do this, but this actor has such a profile that we'll get more business if we cast them.
And also, I think when in the past when movies would resurface, it was because typically either the protagonist or the narrative of the story had something to do with modern day circumstances.
Yeah.
Or modern day values, and this isn't that. This is just like, hey, you know what? We're just.
And then, do you want to talk about the Ernie Hudson thing a little bit too? The Ernie Hudson thing with Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I wanted to contrast this with an actor who's of a different generation.
An awesome actor.
He's talking about his experience from doing Ghostbusters, and Hollywood obviously had a much different landscape back then. He said that the cast were all welcoming and inclusive, but the studio wasn't, and it continued not to be. So it made it very difficult because I was part of it, but then I was selectively pushed aside.
Dude, if you look in some of the versions of it, he's literally like cropped out of shots where like the 3 main stars are, and they do it, and they talk about it in the honest trailers for the Ghostbusters movie.
And
where
are
it's
you
like,
saying that's just because he's
just
taking the place of who would have been Eddie Murphy?
It was Eddie Murphy, yeah. So Eddie Murphy at that time was a huge draw. So here we go again. Big name actor means big name money, means big name promotion. You make allowances in the studio. Like, you can make the argument that in a lot of cases,
Ghostbusters was new though.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, you can make the argument that like the studios, when they're at their best, don't see race. They see green and green alone. They just see money. They don't see Eddie Murphy as a black guy. Theoretically, they see him as a cash cow because he will make them a lot of money, just like Dan Aykroyd, just like Bill Murray.
Well, but it's not like a one-to-one comparison, because The Little Mermaid is going to get a big draw because it's an original Disney property that was already liked for its original version. Ghostbusters was new, and it had to stand on its own merits.
But those other actors were already established actors. So Ernie Hudson at that time didn't have the pedigree that Bill Murray or Dan Aykroyd had. They were just bigger names. So you put an actor with far less relevance up there with these guys who are very, very popular in their field.
So this is someone with a story of like genuinely being
held back.
Yep. And like arguably it was because of his race. And he even said that after Ghostbusters he had trouble finding roles, even though it would seem like the type of role that would get you a big head start.
God, he's so great.
He said anything bad, if you're African American in this country, anything bad happens to you, you can always blame it on because I'm black. You don't want to go there. That's the last thing I want to do. So compare that with the sentiment that's coming from Halle Bailey and a lot of these other like younger black stars these days who didn't face any oppression, but in fact have been artificially astroturfed and amplified for their racial identity.
Yeah.
Their sentiment is one of animosity.
It should annoy him, not her.
His is one of like wanting harmony and unity.
This is why I get mad whenever
a professional relationship with people.
In fairness for Halle Bailey, the thing that might get under her skin is that A, it's a lot, and B, she's very young. You know? And
would his response have been the same at the time if he'd had the same platform? I don't know.
Yeah, it's what we were talking about before our show. That it's like, okay, kid, you sing great, you look great. Do you want to get in the middle of a race war? It's like, no. Well, you are now.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, people are always going to put their own career first. Like, at the end of the day, they're going to put their career and their advancement first, and you can't blame them for that.
I think with Snow White, Rachel Zegler is playing the same game. She almost gives me more of like a sinister vibe.
Imagine how awful
Halle
that
Bailey
is when they could have just hired Jenna Ortega.
Well, yeah, Zegler is going to have some issues distinguishing herself from Jenna Ortega, sadly. But she's got the same take on how it's like it's going to be feminist, it's going to be modern, and she's not going to be vying for the prince, and she doesn't want romance.
She's they're ever going to make
all
a
about
romance
like
again?
You know, empowering herself and finding her own path.
What if they just what if they release these movies and it's just like once every couple of years they release one truly classic love story?
I don't know.
You know why they won't? Because it'll make a ton of money, and then they understand that it will kill the narrative. They're like, it's like, let's face it, they can lie all they want. Women want to go watch romance. They do.
Yeah.
They don't want to go and watch girl boss movies. They don't.
And
Nobody
now,
wants to watch girl boss movies. That's not a thing.
Even the romance movies that are being marketed to them, like teen girls specifically, all have some sinister, disgusting, deviant undercurrent. Like especially like Bones and All with Timothée Chalamet. Like he's hot, but he's a cannibal and he wants to eat you, like Armie Hammer. Or like the same thing in like Lady Bird or whatever. Like there's always something like very cynical and dark about it, and like there's just such a sentiment against like giving people wholesome stories.
I think like part of this, like I wonder how much of this is like big pharma funding these companies to make movies like this to keep women sad and depressed, so they're on antidepressants.
I mean, they're doing great.
Maybe it's the big cat.
They're killing it.
Maybe
They're
it's
killing
big
the
cat.
game.
It's like it's the big cat industry, like that are selling. It's big feline that's out here like making sure that all these women end up sad, alone on antidepressants.
At least there will be no lonely cats.
Yeah.
I think the movie You People is it's the perfect skeleton for how the industry is gonna make movies from now on, because the whole premise of that movie is that she's black, he's Jewish, like they love each other, they get along, but their families
don't get along.
Because they're black and Jewish?
I don't know if it's
because they're culturally different.
It's because I guess they're, from the clips that I saw, is because they were having like an oppression Olympics. They were like, well, actually, we were slaves. We were
it's worse for me. It's worse for me. As all of them drive nice cars, have nice phones. I hate the world today.
And that sounds kind of like self-aware enough that it could be funny.
But that's what I'm saying.
I didn't see it, so I don't know.
Big box wine.
I didn't see it
they're
either.
the ones doing all this. Big box wine and big cat.
Big box wine. But then Jonah Hill, I'm guessing, at the girl's character is like, yeah, well, we're in love. but they're just having their inner monologue about oppression and whatnot.
But the funny thing is, like, it's not like a
But
new
that's funny.
concept. It's not a new concept for like men and women to meet in movies and then the families don't get along, because everyone can understand that trope where like you meet someone and you just don't get along with their parents. That's relatable. But having to bring in your immutable characteristics in your family's history of oppression is just bleh.
But isn't that funny because they're making fun of the fact that they're competing to be the most oppressed?
No, because we're still the bad guys and all. White people are still the bad guys and all that. America are still the bad guys and all that.
I didn't watch You People. I don't know if that's actually the sentiment.
Well, what else would it be? Like if they're complaining
They're
about
making
histories
fun of their ethno-narcissism.
I don't know if they're that self-aware.
They're not that self-aware, but
Exactly.
like, I would have to give it a try and watch it
Yeah,
myself.
we would have to.
see
We
the
should watch it.
tone.
But my guess is that it's so baked into the cake now.
Yeah.
To get your points out. It's like, excuse me. While I may be white presenting, I'm actually from Puerto Rico and I've had a life of whatever. And like that's so in the lingo and it's so meta to like talk about how oppressed you are.
Do meta anymore. Hollywood sucks at meta humor now. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.